Hello, this is Edward Troxel. In today's tutorial we're going to look at the various OFX types that we will generally have to adjust. We won't use all of these all of the time, but it's good to look through the list to see what types are available and how we can adjust them. In the second tutorial back, we learned how to adjust the OFX effect, and we also went through the list of the parameters that were available in the effect. So if you haven't seen it yet, go back a couple of tutorials and you will see how we went through and saw all of the parameters that were available for the effect. Once you know what is available and the type that it is, you can easily go through and adjust them. So let's look at the various types that we can adjust now. Here is the script we used last time, and we had our little routine down here where we created an OFX double parameter because we were dealing with parameters of type double, and so that is the type that we were using here. But let's go down and beyond double, which we will get to again, and see the different types that are available to us. Here we have an OFX RGB parameter. An RGB parameter would be a color, R standing for red, G green, and B blue. That's how most colors are defined. And so to change it, you would create a variable of type OFX color. So here I've created an OFX color variable called OFX color, and we've created a new OFX color. Then you go through and change the .r to be the value for red, which is a double, which is why I put 0.0. Then the color for green, and then the color for blue. I just put 0 in all these cases because I'm not using real numbers, I'm just showing you how these work. Then you would set the parameter value, that is an OFX RGB parameter, to that OFX color. Now let's scroll down and look at the next one. The next one is almost identical, except this is an RGBA parameter. So this one adds the alpha channel. So we've got the red, the green, the blue, and the alpha. It's exactly the same though. We create an OFX color variable. I just call this one OFX color A since we added the alpha channel. And it is a new OFX color. You set the values for the R, the G, and the B, and now you can also set the value for A, and then when you set the value for the OFX parameter, it's going to be set to the RGB and A values. Even though the numbers typically go from 0 to 255, in Vegas a lot of times they run all the numbers just from 0 to 1, so you have to watch out to see what the actual behind the scenes range is for each of these colors. After you go through the list as we showed in the second tutorial back, you may actually have it print out the current value that is in there and compare it to what you see on the screen, because sometimes 0 to 1 is not necessarily what you think it is. The 0 to 1 could actually be 0 to 255. Alright, now let's look at the next one. The next one is our double, just like we used before. You would pass it a double variable, which I've just set to 0.0, and then you would set the value to that double variable. Next, you have a double 2D parameter. This would be the case like if you were using pan crop and needed to set an X and Y value, it would use a 2D parameter. So here I've just set a variable that is of type OFX Double 2D, and then you will set the X value to whatever the value needs to be, and the Y value to whatever the value needs to be. And then when you do this, this will set both the X and Y value for that parameter. For our fifth example here, we are now looking at an OFX Double 3D. And once again, these are still doubles, but we have 3 of them. So I've created an OFX Double 3D variable, and then we would set the X value to our double value, our Y value to the appropriate double value, and our Z to the appropriate double value. And that would be if we were like in the track motion window and we're navigating in X, Y, and Z space, we would need the 3 values. So then we would set the value of the 3D parameter to our 3D variable. Next we have an integer. So I've just created an integer called int_val, set that to a number, an integer number, and then we would change the integer parameter to be that number. As we did with the double parameters, we can actually have a 2D integer, and in this case we would create our OFX Integer 2D variable and then set our X and Y values to the appropriate values, and then set our integer 2D parameter to our new 2D variable. And we have an integer 3D, just like we did with the doubles. So we would create our integer 3D variable, called i3D in this case, and I would set the X value to the appropriate integer, Y to the appropriate integer, and Z to the appropriate integer. Then we would set our integer 3D parameter to our integer 3D variable. Now we have a choice option. If you notice, there are some effects that have some drop-down boxes that have choices that you can pick. Well, that's what this is going to list. And so we have an OFX choice variable type, which I'm just going to call choice. Then we will set our choice to the OFX choice parameter that we're looking at and the whatever number of the choice that we want. I found it easier just to keep the index value of the choice number, because that way if the languages change or something, you don't have to worry about that. So in this case, we're looking at the list of choices that are available, and we're taking whatever number we specify here. So we would need to change that 0 to be the index of the choice that they actually picked. Then I was just double checking to make sure that the choice was not null, and if it was not, then we can change the choice parameter to be equal to the choice that was chosen. Our next one is a Boolean. With a Boolean, we just create a Boolean variable, and then we would set that to either true or false, and then we would take our OFX Boolean parameter and set that to our true-false value. And finally, we get to an OFX string parameter. In this case, we're just going to create a string, set the text for the string, and then for the OFX string parameter, we will assign it that string. So there you have many different types of variables that you can change using the OFX parameters. You just need to make sure that you're using the right type of variable when you're changing any particular type that is in the effect list. So make sure your variable types match, and everything should be great, and you should be able to change your values to whatever they need to be via the script. Please sign up at www.JETDV.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.